Guys! Today the plan is simple. Invite 24 of the best players in the world to Vegas to fight for $35,002. Wait, not just 24. Hold the last chance qualifier with 64 more of the best players in the world and have them fight for 8 more spots. Wouldn't that be amazing? Well, here at PGstats, we can say with total certainty that yes, it was amazing. Our valiant directors have told us that we can make this script as long as we want. So, at the peril of my vocal cords and without further ado, strap in for the full, in-depth recap of the Ludwig Smash Invitational. It all started on Friday with the last chance qualifier. The field of would-be party crashers had to be cut down from 64 to 8 before we could move on. And if you just want to skip forward to the main tournament and skip the LCQ portion, then fine. There's a timestamp on the screen, go there and get to the action. Just know that you're a massive dork for skipping over our hard work. Okay? Okay. For those of you wonderful people who stuck around, the LCQ was actually a bit of a bloodbath. Of the top 8 seeds, Louis Money, Jackal, Shattuck, Lima, Ned, SkyJ, Send, and Jazzo, only 3 advanced past the tournament's first phase. 5 seed Ned missed top cut because, well, he missed the tournament altogether, taking the weekend off for some much needed rest before Let's Make Moves Miami next weekend. Number 1 overall seed Louis Money and number 3 seed Shattuck won their first match, but were upset by Goblin and Kurama respectively to send them down to losers early. There, Louis Money matched up against Skittles, hot off of wins over AC and Peanut, and the long-reigning king of NorCal was crushed in 4 games, knocking him out of the tournament at 17th. Losers was no kinder to Shattuck, who ran into fellow Texan and top 8 seed Lima, who was upset by Minnesota Wario main Loaf in an upset factor 6 win that trailed only Skittles and Goblins wins over the top seed Louis Money for the biggest upsets of the LCQ. Shattuck just couldn't handle Lima, as the Bayo main was on a mission, ending Shattuck and Daddick's big Vegas weekend a couple days early. The other 2 top 8 seeds who came up short were Jazzo and SkyJ. Jazzo was taken out by Doorstop and Send for 17th, and SkyJ went down to Kurama and Big D for 9th. Keep those names in mind though, because we might just talk about them a little bit more later. That means that Jackal, Lima, and Send all advanced from the LCQ despite meeting varying degrees of resistance, with Jackal cruising through winners and Lima and Send fighting their way through losers. The other players to make it through on winners' side were as follows. First, Goblin, who has re-emerged as a top player after a brief slump and nabbed wins on Mr. E, Louis Money, and Ouch. Secondly, Kurama, the Mario main formerly known as Prodigy, who entered this weekend most famous for 3-0ing MK Leo at Frostbite 2020, and prior to that, making the PGRU V1 when he was just 14 years old. That season started when he was 13, and he was among the 50 best players in the world at an age where most people still nick themselves shaving, if they even need to shave at all yet. He breezed through winners, getting 3 PGRU V3 wins on Yanni, Shattuck, and SkyJ while dropping a combined 2 games. And the most unlikely of them all, MFA. MFA is an Olimar main who splits time between Reno, Nevada, and NorCal, and has only traveled away from the West Coast to attend 1 major ever. Those who are paying attention should have seen his SmashCon 2022 as a sign of things to come. There, he finished 33rd with wins over Mars, Grapes, Slashy, and Colorado 8. But it always pays to broaden your horizon, and despite coming in as the 37th seed with, by his words, no practice coming into the LCQ, he went 4-0. He took out SoCal Snake main AC and then Rat, Ling, and Loaf to make it into the big show out of nowhere. Is this because his Start.gg profile bio says if you win against me, I'm gonna get sad, and his opponents are just like really nice? I mean, probably not. MFA is deadly and seemingly always had the right Pikmin in line when he needed it. He became the 4th Olimar to make his way into the 32-person final bracket. The 4th! Okay, that's it. We've seen enough. We need to ban Olimar. The final 2 players to make it to the Big Kid bracket were 2 giants of the Smash world, and 2 of my favorite tags of all time to say. Big D and Quandale Dinglelingleton. Mr. D and Mr. Dinglelingleton faced off in winners round 2, with Dinglelingleton winning in 4 games. But Big D would not be deterred, and won 5 sets in losers while only dropping 2 total games just to make it to the final bracket. The biggest loser in all of this? Well, arguably Big D.
Hold on, dude.
My flight was supposed to leave this morning. I didn't think I'd get this far.
No way. Come on, man.
Quick major validation check. Quandale Dinglelingleton showed up. Check, it's a major. More than that, though, he showed out this weekend with big wins over Big D, Send, and Andrik to make it to day 2. And as we'll get into, he, like Big D, wasn't done making waves on day 1. And we have to give a shout out to Andrik, Doorstop, and Loaf. These are players who, because of their regions, being Mexico for Andrik and the Midwest for Doorstop and Loaf, often get overlooked and don't get many opportunities to go to majors. But when they do, they are very dangerous threats. They all had strong wins on their runs, but Smash Brothers doesn't care about your story. 2 players enter and only 1 can exit with their bracket life intact, and they all came up just a bit short of the finish line. And also Void, who is always fun to watch compete, but apparently was out in Vegas with free time on his hands and won 10 grand with Mango. And if that's true, that means he won more money this weekend than any player not named MK Leo. All for a 17th place finish in the LCQ because he missed the ledge in Game 5. So now, seriously this time, we can talk about the invitational part of the invitational. We have the 24 invited players along with Jackal, Karama, Goblin, MFA, Big D, Quandale Dinglelingleton, Send, and Lima. So we separate them into 8 pools of 4 and get it started. Wait, what? What do you mean that's not how they did it? Oh. Well, taking a cue from esports like Rocket League and CSGO, the Ludwig Smash Invitational avoided all the nonsense of tiebreaker sets and game counts in favor of a Swiss system. Bracket systems can scare people, but trust us, this one was worth it. If you don't care to think too hard about it, the group stage can be simple. Win 3 games and you make it to Sunday, lose 3 games and you don't. If you're nerds like we are and you do care to know more, here's a rundown. The players are split into 2 groups of 16. The groups went one at a time and work identically, so we'll just explain using 16 players here. In order to make it out of the group stage, you need to win 3 sets, and you play until you win 3 sets or you lose 3 sets. Everyone plays in round 1 against someone else, that's easy enough. 8 people win and 8 people lose. The winners will play against each other and vice versa, the losers will play each other. 4 people win and 4 people lose. Then the 2-0 and 0-2 players play to determine who moves on and who is out. But what happens to the 8 people that went 1-1? They play against each other. 4 win, 4 lose. 2 move to 2-1 and play the 2-0s who lost in round 3. 2 move to 1-2 to play against the 0-2s who won in round 3 to stay alive. Basically, you always play against somebody with the same record as you until either everybody has 3 wins or 3 losses, and the math always works out with groups of 16 so that 8 people will have 3 wins and 8 people will have 3 losses. In larger brackets, it's difficult to implement Swiss due to the level of organization it requires, but with pools of 16, it's manageable. And as a viewer, if you just want to treat it as a funny little triple elimination bracket, you can. But now, seriously, without further ado, our invitational recap. Group 1 started out with a bang when tournament number 1 seed Light was swept by the last seed to make it out of the LCQ, Big D. You'll start to see a pattern emerge here with Big D where you'll swear, even if only for a moment, that he is the best player in the world. His pressure setups are unreal, and his ledge trapping and complex traps make neutral a nightmare for his opponents if they rely on getting in. And that's without factoring in the absolute destruction he's able to get off of any stray hit, and fighting Big D feels like, well, fighting Big D, like physically, the 6'8" mountain of a man. Round 2 saw Siski, Jackal, Light, and Ken avenge first round losses, and the players on winners mostly crushed their opponents to make it to 2-0, with only Riddles' win over Meister needing a 5th and final game. Round 3 is where things started to really become interesting, because it's where we had our first eliminations and promotions. The dynamic duo of Texans and Lima and Mudace were the first to fall, as neither of them really found their footing in a chaotic and tough bracket. They ended up going 0-3, both falling at 29th. On the other side of the coin, Shutone won a 5-game set with Spargo to move to 3-0 and away from the gauntlet that awaited him at 2-1. And Cola tapped into some deep, guttural, unknowable, and ancient power to crush Riddles' Kazuya, who used to, for him, be a serious demon. In round 4, Big D did the unthinkable and beat Riddles, even forcing him to pull out an emergency Richter that we hadn't seen in a while. This coming after beating Light and Jackal to make it to top 16 with a 3-1 record. Fellow last chance qualifier MFA couldn't make that same magic happen though, and when the clock struck 12, Light turned his Pikmin back into pumpkins. The clock also ran out on Ken and Myron, 2 players ranked in the top 15 on the most recent NA PGR, and they were sent home with 1-3 records. Then, finally, in round 5, Tweak beat Meister, Riddles barely staved off Jackal, and Siski came up just short despite forcing a 5th game against Light, who seemingly was making it his mission not to bow out before top 16 as the tournament's #1 seed. So with one group out of the way, an LCQ player easily making top 16 and top players dropping left and right, the second group couldn't possibly match that, right? Wrong! Kurama immediately upset T's Pac-Man in 5 games, using Mario's obscene movement and safe hitboxes to trounce T the Titan. And in other news, we finally got to see tournament #2 seed Akola face off against Quandale Dinglelingleton in a Steve Ditto for the ages that actually wasn't all that close, with Akola winning 3-1. MK Leo and Zamba pasted their round 1 opponents, and Cosmos got a Game 5 win over Zachary. If you're wondering where MK Leo is seated, the answer would be 3rd, and before you go into the comments and yell about how that's ridiculous, you have to understand that seeding has higher priorities than simply stating where players should finish. Particularly at an invitational like this one featuring players from multiple regions, avoiding regional conflicts was the highest goal. Other goals like avoiding rematches of sets we see constantly at majors also warrants consideration. And then there's the fact that Leo's recent results, for the first time in his illustrious career, didn't necessarily scream obvious #1 in the way they had in the past. Considering he just got 9th at Summit where Akola and Light finished in the top 3 and 5th at SmashCon, his most recent open major, there is room for debate at the top, and certainly the question that Leo might be in a slump. Leo, however, played this weekend like a man looking to silence everyone. He crushed his round 1 and round 2 opponents Send and Cosmos both 3-0 with Byleth, a character he has now gone back to because, frankly, playtime is over. Meanwhile, in round 2, Sonics won over Gluttony to put him at 2-0, and Kurama finally lost his first set of the weekend 3-1 to DeBuzz's Rosalina. That set up Zamba vs Sonics and MK Leo vs DeBuzz to qualify for top 16. One of these sets was close, and the other was very, very not close. Zamba and Sonics took 5 games in nearly 30 minutes before Zamba was crowned as king of the pool and had him move on to the final bracket with an unblemished record. MK Leo, like MK Leo does, crushed DeBuzz. MK Leo at this point pretty much only pulls out his patented red Joker that we all love and adore so much against the King of New York. And in about half the time it took Zamba to beat Sonics, Leo brought their ultimate lifetime set count to 16-1 and joined Zamba as the other 3-0 winner of Pool B. Goblin and Mars bowed out at 0-3, with Mars getting one of the toughest draws of the bracket. DeBuzz into T into Send. But that's what an invitational will do to you. Even if you won a major in the last month, you aren't safe. Then in round 4, Akola, Sonics, and Kurama punched their tickets, meaning that there would be 2 LCQ qualifiers in top 16. On the other side of the coin, we had to say goodbye to Send, Chag, and everyone's favorite wildcard, Zachary, who remains unpredictable as ever as he looks to regain his footing in competitive Smash after a long break. Finally, in round 5, we had DeBuzz finally beat Cosmos, slaying the demons that had haunted him since Smash Summit 5. Gluttony also vanquished Quandale Dinglelingleton, and Ashimo upset T, meaning the top 2 of last week's L'Odyssey both fell before the final phase at Ludwig's. Because this bracket was made specifically to create chaos and a truly awesome spectacle, the final bracket would have each player that finished 3-0 in their pool draft a player that finished 3-2 that they hadn't yet played to be their first round opponent. The 4 undefeated players, MK Leo, Zamba, Shutone, and Cola, could choose from a pool of 6 players: Gluttony, DeBuzz, Light, Ashimo, Riddles, and Tweak. With both LCQ players making it out of pools at 3-1, that simply left a murderer's row of players that the top seeds could choose from. Leo picked Ashimo because, simply, Byleth beats Shotos. Zamba picked Riddles because, simply, we're 1-1. Shutone picked Gluttony because it's pretty well known that Olimar is as foreign to Europeans as the Pikmin were to Olimar when he crash-landed on their planet. Finally, Cola picked DeBuzz, ostensibly because he'd won their last 5 meetings and hadn't lost to the King of New York since Clash of the Carolinas 3 in February of 2020. In top 16, everyone starts on winner's side, unlike other invitational events like Summit. So after the drafting process, it's a brand new day for each of the 16 survivors. Of those 16 survivors, 11 are major winners. 4 of the remaining 5 have finished in the top 2 at a major this year, and the last one would be Karama, who, well, he seems like a pretty cool guy. Regardless, Winners Round 1 happened on Saturday night, the last thing that we got to see before going to bed and letting the brutal onslaught of good competition cradle us to sleep. But all it did was create hype and intrigue for Sunday. Leo and Cola both handled their business, 3-0ing their opponents and heading into day 3 with set records of 4-0 and game records of 12-0 for Leo and 12-2 for Cola. Shutone and Zamba were on opposite ends of 4-game sets that never really felt close, with Shutone winning 3-1 and Zamba falling before the unholy wrath of Kazuya Mishima in a 3-1 loss. And both Steve players had tight 5-game sets, with Akola getting revenge on Light for their set at Ultimate Summit 5, and Sonics defeating Onin in, you guessed it, another 8-hour set. Okay, maybe not 8 hours, but look, he's nothing if not deliberate. None of that matters as much, though, as the action that we saw from both LCQ players. It was almost like they were trying to one-up each other. First, Big D got a 4-game win over Tweak, where he used a solo climber to finish the set and secure his spot in the top 12. Tweak tried both Sephiroth and Diddy Kong, but neither could handle the wrath of Large Dawson, and crumpled in the face of the iciest duo since Hermie and Yukon Cornelius from the Rudolph movie. Who wrote this? But then Karama, piloting Mario, the character with stubby little legs and famously does poorly against swords, beat Spargo's Cloud in 5 exhilarating games. Not only had 2 LCQ players who weren't even seeded to make it to the tournament made top 16, they were both on winner's side heading into day 3. Honestly, Big D probably missed another flight because he was just too good to go home. Just a quick reminder, these were also the 2 players who beat SkyJ in the LCQ. Pretty rough draw for the big cat main, who understandably has started to consider the power he could channel through one Kazuya Mishima. A terrifying thought. Starting day 3, tragedy befell the United States when 3 of its 5 strongest players were taken out at 13th. DeBuzz's run was one that just doesn't really make sense. He had 4 losses: MK Leo, Akola, regular Cola, and finally Spargo on Sunday. Leo, Spargo, and Akola are probably the 3 best players in the world right now, and Cola is likely the 2nd best player in the United States. All of those players would go on to make top 8 and leave DeBuzz on the outside looking in yet again. God, what did he do to deserve this? What cosmic power does DeBuzz keep angering that keeps him out of the highest of top cuts at majors? And why does it have to be him? It drives me insane, and look, remind me, I'll come back around someday to tell you why. Congrats on 100,000 Twitter followers though, DeBuzz, that's cool. Tweak had a similar fate, but without the sheer magnitude of bad bracket luck that DeBuzz had. A 3-0 loss to Gluttony sealed his fate, and even with good wins over Ken, Myron, and Meister, it wasn't enough to make it to the top of this absolutely brutal bracket. And finally, the number 1 overall seed, the Rushdown Revolutionary Light. Light lost 3-0 to Big D, but other than that, his losses were to Akola, Onin, and Zamba, all in 5 games. When you play against players that talented who pilot characters that are so explosive like Rob and Steve, you're bound to lose some of those sets. That's just the way it is. But this time he lost too many sets in a row and couldn't make that light magic that we've just come to expect from him happen. This is his first time missing top 4 at any tournament since Collision in March, which made 31 brackets in a row that he'd weathered the storm and come out mostly dry. But even the sturdiest of captains can get caught by intense storms, and Light just couldn't make it happen. Onin, however, was able to avenge the good old US of A by beating Ashimo 3-0, but Ashimo had a good tournament all things considered. His first international tournament was only 4 months ago, the Invitational in June, where he showed the world that he was for real with a 5th place. And since then, he's put up solid performances in Europe and the United States. Between a 13th place here where he beat Quandale Dinglelingleton, Send, and T, a 7th place finish at L'Odyssée, and a 5th place finish at Ultimate Wanted 4, Ashimo has gone from international curiosity to a genuine breakout star. Big D was finally able to book a flight home after his run was stopped by Shutone in winners, who he lost to in the group stage, and Onin in losers, who beat him for the GOML 2022 championship. Big D actually only lost to 2 characters all week. Shutone's Aegis twice, and Steve, piloted by Quandale Dinglelingleton in the LCQ and Onin in the main bracket. Outside of that, he got wins on a veritable who's who of Smash. Hbox, Xavier, Doorstop, Skittles, SkyJ, Light, Jackal, Riddles, and then Tweak. That's 6 PGRU V3 wins, and 3 of those wins are in the top 10. It's also worth noting that 0, that's none of his 10 sets this weekend, went to 5 games. Big D either soundly beats his opponents or gets handled himself. And this is actually a trend for him, possibly because of the polarizing nature of the Ice Climbers, or maybe because Big D is just a statistical anomaly beyond our understanding. Of the 8 brackets he's played in this year that are either invitationals or have 200 plus players, he's only had 5 game sets in 3 of them. This game is weird. The other Canadian in the final bracket had the same path, winning in winners round 1 but then losing back-to-back sets after that. Riddles finished 9th, coming directly off of his first major win. He said himself that he got complacent. The view from the top is nice, but that sigh of relief that you feel when you make it there is all the time that players trying to catch you may need. He lost to Akola in winners in a 5-game set, and then Spargo in losers in 4 games, so saying that you were off your game when losing to 2 of the 3 best players in the world kinda feels like a subtle flex from Riddles, who truly reminded the world of the devastating power that Kazuya wields. MKLeo beat the brakes off of Sonics in winners in a 3-0 sweep. Sonics didn't step on the brakes at all in losers though, as he blew by Gluttony, who at this point seems totally lost in the Sonic matchup, and tried to counterpick Sonics with Roy and Wolf, with only the Wolf taking even 1 game. Zamba was the last of the 9th place finishers, and he was beaten in 5 games by Cola, who has been just a bit better than Zamba as of late. Zamba is so close to the precipice, and wins over Akola and Light prove that he has what it takes. He just needs to string a couple more wins together, and he will have his major title. Now, the keen-eyed among you might have noticed that Kurama wasn't mentioned in the 9th place section at all, so where could he have gone? Certainly he didn't fly home, so that must mean yes. Kurama was proudly seeded in winners semifinals after a 3-1 win over Cola, another Swordy main, and another top 10 player. He just made it look easy against Cola, edgeguarding with Nair, connecting with every stray hit into a combo that would make the best professional jugglers jealous, and killing at absurdly low percents with combos into up B and fair. His movement and Mario's fast, safe hitboxes all add up to take up the space that his opponent would want to run to, and it was astounding to watch. And for someone who was seeded to finish 13th in the last chance qualifier, it was amazing that he could make top 8 at an event this big. And then, he beat Shutone and moved into winners finals. I swear I'm not making this up. On one side, Kurama has defeated Shutone to make it to winners finals, and on the other side, finally, the Smash Gods have given us what we had been awaiting for so long. Live and in person, MKLeo versus Akola. Goliath versus Goliath. Best player in Japan versus the best player in North America. Fighters Pass 1 versus Fighters Pass 2. But it just wasn't even close at all. Game 1 suggested it could be, but MKLeo hit Akola with the meanest air dodge read of all time to put himself up 1-0, and from then on, it was a slaughter. Leo's Byleth dismantled Akola in a way that we've just never seen before. The set barely lasted 11 minutes, including time between games, and Akola just had no answers for the immense pressure that Leo put on him. That put MKLeo into winners finals against Kurama at the biggest Smash Invitational of all time, having not even dropped a single game. In losers, Cola and Sonics lost to Spargo and Onin respectively, knocking them both out at 7th. All things considered, the two played pretty similar tournaments, which is ironic considering that the two sit on the total opposite ends of the aggression spectrum. Both of them have a mode that they can tap into where they're just not gonna lose. They can fight anyone, and through grit and determination, they just kinda make incredible things happen. Sonics is borderline unhittable when he wants to be, and against players who would be happy to let him camp like T, Onin, and Gluttony, he still just plays his painstaking game and crushes his opponent's desire to play the game. Cola used to be one of those opponents. Not of Sonics, but when he would be playing a bad matchup, he would just look sad and defeated. But lately, he's turned that sadness into rage. The loud yells, fiery sword, and explosive power of Roy go perfectly with Cola 2.0, and he's able to play Rushdown in a way that we just don't normally see it played. He beat Riddles in a matchup that Roy Mains famously hate and finally showed everyone that he can beat anyone. And now it's only a matter of time before he beats everyone. In losers quarters, Spargo got his third 3-0 sweep out of his 4 sets in the losers bracket, beating Shutone 3-0 after Shutone beat him 3-2 in the group stage. Since June, Shutone has played in 6 majors. 3 of them have been in the US, 2 of them have been in France, and only 1 of them has been in his home country of Japan. He can be hard to pin down as he hasn't won any of those tournaments, but he's finished top 8 at every single one, which would be an incredible achievement even before you factor in the amount of traveling he's put himself through in that time frame. And he's only underperformed his seed once in this time span, at L'Odyssée where he finished 7th as the 2nd seed. He's an amazingly talented player with both Aegis and Olimar. Somehow he hasn't won a major since the lockdown period, with his last win coming at the nearly 3,000 player EVO Japan 2020, but the more he figures out his Aegis and the best way to deploy his unique character combination, the more likely it becomes that he'll turn his consistency into another major win down the line. Onin lost 3-0 to Akola, cementing Akola's place as the king of Minecraft, at least for the time being. Despite bowing out at 5th, Onin continues to prove the doubters wrong. He's here to stay. He hasn't missed a top 8 since Glitch Infinite in February, and continues to notch big wins and impressive placements at every event he goes to. Watching his style of play compared to Akola's is both fascinating and terrifying, because you can see where each player can improve upon their decision making and fundamentals and learn from each other. This is only the beginning for Onin. And then there were 4. MKLeo, Spargo, and Akola, who have won a combined 15 majors just this year, and Kurama, who has won 0 majors, but we still assume is a pretty cool guy. Spargo vs. Akola was truly a set for the ages, a clash of the best that both Steve and Cloud have to offer. Until Game 5, when Spargo had one of the most unfortunate, poorly timed SDs of all time in Smash. He just buffered an air dodge off the stage and died forward at 0 at the start of the game. No matter, he clawed his way back into the game, evening it up at 2 stocks apiece and tying up the percentages. But a couple pixels here and a couple frames there cost him. And when he got too into trying to hit Akola with a smash attack to take his 2nd stock, Akola pounced and hit him with a gorgeous combo and edge guard to take Spargo out at 4th. Spargo might not be the consistency machine that he was at his peak a few months ago, but it is absolutely safe to say that he is back. Wins over Jackal, Onin, Meister, Dabuz, Riddle, Shutone, and Sonics prove that he is still just as good as he ever was. The only thing holding him back right now is nerves. All 3 of his set losses to Kurama, Shutone, and Akola were Game 5 sets where you can tell that the mental fatigue and intense stress of the situation were getting to him. But that's something that's fixed with practice and experience, and Spargo has plenty of time for both. He'll get back to the calm, cool, and collected menace we all know and love, but if you're just looking at his skill, his raw talent, Spargo might be better now than he ever was. And that should scare every top player. In Winners Finals, MKLeo could finally look to get his revenge on Kurama for beating him at Frostbite 2020, a set that kicked off one of the greatest losers runs of all time. The stage was set for another classic MKLeo beatdown, but then, for the first time all weekend, the unthinkable happened. MKLeo lost a game. The rest of the set was kind of a cakewalk. I mean, he had a scare or 2 in there, but Leo took it 3-1, and he bounced back well from his first loss and brought his total game count to 21-1. Kurama played well, but MKLeo was just on something else at that point. Then, finally, Kurama was able to get a well-deserved rest after falling to Akola for 3rd place. Being the 14th seed of the LCQ and then the 31st seed of the main bracket, nobody except maybe his family had faith in him, but he just kept winning. Throughout this video, we've talked about Mario as a mustachioed Mishima, just dashing around his opponents while they flail around looking for answers. He played fast and smooth and most of all confidently, and it paid off in one of the year's biggest events. He took home a bronze medal, cementing himself as a top player. There isn't much to say about him that we haven't already said, so instead, we'll just list out his wins. Atlas, Yanni, Shattuck, SkyJT, Zachary, Gluttony, Spargo, Cola, and Shutone. That's 9 PGRU wins in 13 total sets. Not a bad clip. Not a bad clip at all. Now, you'll never believe it, but MKLeo crushed Akola again in Grand Finals. Another 3-0 victory. Akola has likely locked himself to the number 2 spot in the world with wins over Onan, Light, Riddle, Spargo, Karama, Chag, Quandale Dinglelingleton, and Dabuz. He extended his streak of top 4 finishes to 19 events, which is every event he's ever been to. His use specifically of footstool to down air on top of all the other things he does so effortlessly is so punishing. There just isn't anywhere to hide, and if you hit his shield from the air and you're above 75%, you best believe you'll have some time in the blast zone to think about where you went wrong. But even taking all of that into account, this weekend is about MKLeo. We should have never expected differently. We should have never thought, even for a moment, that anyone could play with the grace and brutal pinpoint accuracy that MKLeo does. His movement was on point, his neutral was impeccable, and his kill setups were such that if you blinked, you'd miss it. 24 wins, 1 loss. Leo's run is the only time at any major that a player has played at least 2 best-of-5 sets and not dropped at least 2 games. And this was an invitational. He won 8 best-of-5 sets, and all of them were against PGR level players. There was no playing against your local Dark Pit main that's actually pretty good when he's playing well, or someone that plays Bowser Jr. that's just happy to be there. Everyone he played this weekend went into their set with the thought that they just might be able to beat MKLeo, and every single person other than Karama walked away with as many wins as they would have gotten if they'd played with their eyes closed. The idea that Leo can just win if he feels like it seems true now more than ever, and that is a terrifying thought. So, why did MKLeo win? Because he's the best, and it's not up for debate. Next week, our attention turns to the next stop on the Panda Cup, as one more trip to the Panda Cup finale is on the line at Let's Make Moves Miami in South Florida. Subscribe to the channel right now to keep up with everything from Let's Make Moves Miami and beyond. I've been Kimona, and from all of us here at PGstats, we thank you all for watching this feature-length recap. We'll see you next time.